Hi guys, today we are going to annotate our main topic of a text and think of key details to support that main topic. I like nonfiction because it has text features like headings, and it also shows us pictures, and sometimes they have captions that help us understand what we're reading. So I see that paragraphs 1 and 2 are part of the introduction. So I know these paragraphs will introduce a topic or idea. I wonder, will these paragraphs tell me what a government is? You can write questions that you might have to yourself in the margins. So I might write here, what is a government? And hopefully when I read, I'll be able to find that out. Let's start. Remember to have a pen or something to annotate with that you can write notes or jot down ideas. We're going to see if we can find the main topic of what we're going to read about in the introduction. Every country has a government. A government is a group of people. The people work together to make important decisions for the country. So right away it tells me the definition of a government in our first paragraph. So I'm going to underline that. It answered my question that I wrote over here in the margin. It tells me a government is a group of people that work together to make important decisions for our country. So I know my main topic of our story is going to be the government. I'm wondering if our country has more than one government. Or is it just one group of people to make decisions? Let's keep reading. The government of the United States of America is called the federal government. Each state has its own government. That is called the state government. Most cities and towns have a government. That is called the local government. I actually answered my own question by reading. I asked if we only had one government, but I found out we actually have three. We have the federal government, and I can number that as 1. We have the state government, and then we have our local governments that help us with rules and laws in our own towns. That would be number 3. So we have 3 types of government. So the main topic of this section is what government is and what kinds of governments are in the United States. Let's read more. Why does the government make laws? Right here, my heading is asking us a question, so I bet as we read, we will find that answer. All governments make laws. A law is a rule that everyone has to follow. A government makes laws to keep people safe. Well, I just learned a lot of things in that paragraph. I learned that all 3 governments make laws. And here it told me the definition of a law. It's a rule that everyone has to follow. And I also learned the reason why it answers this question. Why does the government make laws? A government makes laws to keep citizens safe. So however you would like to answer that question, you can draw a little arrow answering it. You can jot some notes in the margin. Remember, annotating is whatever will help you to remember what is important. Let's continue. For example, there are many laws about car seatbelts. Before 1984, no one had to wear a seatbelt. Then state governments began to pass seatbelt laws. Now every child in a car must wear a seatbelt. That is the law. In most states, adults must wear seatbelts too. Anyone who does not is breaking the law. Here, I think the main topic of this paragraph is about laws. And it's giving us an example of what a law is. Every child must wear a seatbelt. That is the law. There are lots of laws. They're giving us an example of what one is. And if you do not follow the law, then you're breaking it. How does the government keep order? Laws help the government keep order. Laws tell people what they can and cannot do. For example, there are many laws about driving. There are laws about how fast a car can go. There are laws about which streetcars can drive down. There are laws about where a car can be parked. There are even laws about when and where it is allowed to honk a horn. Police officers work for the government. Some work for the local government. Some work for the state government. Others work for the federal government. They all work to make sure people follow the laws. So I did answer this question here. How does the government keep order? Well, I know that the laws help government keep order. And when I was reading that, I was asking myself, oops, let me turn the lights back on. That's what happens if we don't move around enough. Laws help the government keep order. I was wondering to myself, who makes sure we follow the laws? I know there's laws in place to keep us safe, but who makes sure that we're following them? And we find that out in the next page. And our answer is police officers. We know they work for the government. They all work to make sure people follow the laws. Good job, boys and girls. I want you to continue with the next section of our story. See if you can answer this question by underlining the answer in the next two paragraphs. The question is, what happens when a law gets broken? See if you can decide the answer to that question from our text. I'll read it. You underline as we go. Many things can happen when a law gets broken. Here is an example. When a school bus has stopped to let students get on or off, a car is not allowed to pass the school bus. An accident can happen. It is against the law for a car to pass a school bus that has stopped for students. One day, a driver does not stop. He drives past the school bus that has stopped for students. A police officer sees this. He goes after the car. He makes the driver stop. The officer writes a ticket and gives it to the driver. The ticket says which law the driver broke. The ticket also lists a fine the driver might have to pay. Did you figure out the answer as I read? Can you answer the question now? What happens when a law gets broken? Great job. Check to see if you underlined some of the same things I think I would underline. Right here it tells us many things happen. But I'd like to know more. What do they mean by that? An accident can happen if you break the law. But a police officer sees when these things happen. He can pull the driver over in this case. You can get a ticket if you break the law. And you might also have to pay a fine. Those are all things that could happen if a law gets broken. Great job. A lot of times, boys and girls, in informative texts or nonfiction texts, we have a conclusion, and that ties up all of the ideas that we just read about. A conclusion is a good place too to find the main points in our texts. So let's read the conclusion and see if we can wrap up what we were just talking about. There are federal, state, and local governments. They all pass laws. The laws help keep people safe. The laws help keep order. Police officers help keep order too. Sometimes a law gets broken. A judge may have to decide what happens to someone who breaks a law. See how all of those points we actually just talked about were added in really short sentences in our conclusion? We talked about the 3 types of government we have: federal, state, and local. We learned again what laws do. They help keep people safe, and they help keep order. And we also talked one more time that police officers are who make sure that we follow the laws. And if a law gets broken, you might have to go to court and let the judge decide what could happen, like paying a fine. Great job, boys and girls, annotating. When you're finished, click Next.